Hey everybody, welcome to the Max Show. That is Massive Abundance Exposed, where we expose the badass secrets of entrepreneurs all over the world. And we have got a very special guest today. My name is Chris Stafford, and I am so looking forward to introducing my new Canadian friend, Mr. Corey Poirier. He's amazing, okay? He's a public speaker. He does a lot of really cool speaking things. He's a singer, he's a writer, he's a stand-up comic. He is a specialist in customer service and sales. I mean, this guy has his own radio show. He has a number of books. He's coming out with a brand new CD series, which I'm really looking forward to hearing more about. So we've got all kinds of fun things to talk to Corey about. But before you do, make sure you get your happy butts over to massiveabundanceinc.com. Definitely check out the website there, sign your name in, get yourself a free goodie. And let's get started talking to Mr. Corey Poirier. Welcome, everybody. Believe it or not, we have Mr. Corey Poirier in the house. How you doing, Corey?
I'm doing fantastic. Makes me sound all special and royal. Corey Poirier in the house. I love it.
Well, that's cool because, hopefully I'm not messing up your last name. I know we were giggling about that before we actually started taping. But Corey, I'm so impressed with you because, public speaker, singer, writer, stand-up comic. You had so many things on your resume that it just blows my mind. It's pretty cool. And I really want to get into that, but I thought I'd start off by just letting everybody know a little bit about who is Corey, how did you get to where you're at right now?
Well, I guess I don't know how far I'll go back, but I will say I'm a product of a single mother. Mm-hmm. I am an only child. She's an only child. So very tiny family. And my mother is one of those people that's very social, very high energy. I talk color types sometimes when I'm working with clients, and my mother would definitely be what I would call a yellow, but a kind of a social person who loves to share stories. Uh-huh. So that's a kind of important part of my background because I believe that a lot of the qualities that I have come directly from my mother. Mm-hmm. And, you hear these traits that they say men we're not as good at, let's say, and women are a little better at, like, multitasking. Mm-hmm. And I definitely feel that the reason that I've been a little bit lucky in those areas is because of being raised by a single mother. So that's kind of the backstory in terms of, I guess you'd say, my roots and mm-hmm. background. In terms of my background on the career side and how I came to what I'm doing today, I guess the big part of it is being a storyteller and having those roots. I found myself working in the corporate world in a sales role, mm-hmm. which involved a lot of storytelling. That evolved into a speaker's role. Uh-huh. And so what happened was I went from the world of sales in terms of a hardcore sales background, then to become a sales trainer, and then to the speaking world, and then it just kind of kept evolving from there mm-hmm. to become, I guess, the person I am today. So that's the backstory is I came from a storytelling background, and then it continued on to a sales background, which eventually evolved into the me of today.
Well, that's cool because, you're speaking, I think, to the hearts of, many of our viewers. A lot of these viewers right now, Corey, as we were talking about before, they are realtors. And we have a lot of startup entrepreneurs and a lot of people that I think that really need to understand the importance, like myself, the importance of customer service. And on your website, which we're going to have in the show notes, so we'll have all the information for Corey at Poirier.com, and we'll have that in the show notes. You talk about being a customer service and sales specialist. And, we need that help. We need to be taking care of our clients and our customers better. Is there any like words of wisdom that you might have in terms of if you had a realtor that you're talking to in terms of how to take care of their clients?
Well, I guess I would say a two-part answer. One is to realize, first of all, customer service is an emotional thing. Mm-hmm. So ironically, I would tell the person that they have to focus on the emotions of their clients, meaning making sure they're satisfying the emotions of their clients rather than just let's say, a client who wants to talk features. There's some clients that'll love to hear every little nook and cranny about the house, mm-hmm. but overall, we still buy with emotion and justify with logic. Mm-hmm. So you have to satisfy the person's emotion, but at the same time, the reason I preface that first is that I also believe you have to practice customer service. It has to be something that you can, hang your hat on. Did I do a good job? How do I measure that? And so I believe it also involves having a little bit of a system in place. So the reason I started first with emotion is because as soon as you start talking business processes and systems, for a lot of people, it takes it away from the emotional side. So what I'm getting at is you have to focus on the emotions first and foremost, no matter what. But I would say the second part to it, the second tip would be to actually look at having a process in place. And to give you a quick, I guess, mini overview of a process that I share with clients that I find can apply to any industry. And it's very easy to use and easy to apply because it's not a high-level thing that, you're getting into 5 levels deep for each step. I'll give you the 4-step process that I tell people to apply. And the one thing I'll make sure that I also suggest, Chris, is that the realtors listening and everybody listening knows that it sounds simple on the surface, but it's not as easy to do as it sounds. So first of all, the steps I tell people is, one, you need to make it about your customer.
Make it about your customer, okay.
Make it about your customer. The second part is you need to involve your customer in the experience. The third part is you need to be in the moment with your customer. And then finally, you have to deliver the wow or the unexpected. Now, I have to go a step further and say, if you try to deliver the wow without doing the other 3, which would be the minimum, if you try to deliver the wow without delivering the minimum, there's no point in doing it at all. If you use the example of if you go into a big box store and they come bring you over and say, oh, look, we have a coupon for this amount off on this thing. But when you ask them about what you're looking for, they didn't have the time of day for you. When you were asking questions, they didn't listen to your questions and they talked over you. If they were on their phone and started taking phone calls in the middle of the conversation, that $10 off coupon isn't going to mean a lick, if you will.
Exactly.
So, and just to drill down into them for 2 seconds, when I say make it about the customer, what I'm meaning is customize the experience to them. There's a lot of different ways to do that. One, it could be just as simply as finding out and using their first name. Dale Carnegie says the most powerful word in the English language to the average person is the sound of their own name. Another way is to read their color type and adjust accordingly. Those are simple ways you can make it about them. Involving the customer could be asking them questions about their last experience. So now they're involved by giving you answers. The being in the moment could mean not touching your cell phone or your data device while you sit in front of a customer. And then the delivering the wow could be as simple as dropping by with roses for your customer. Something that they go, wow. But it might not even have to be something that costs you money. My mother's mail lady used to deliver the mail and bring dog biscuits, one little biscuit every day for the dog. And she said that her boss paid for them. So it cost her nothing. And my mother went nuts every time the lady came by. It wasn't just the dog that was excited. My mother was excited to talk to her and that experience. So that's a very 2-minute Reader's Digest version of 4 steps that a person can apply over and over and over again.
I love it. I mean, Corey, that is so cool. Great examples for the 4 steps. But the thing that fascinates me, and this is one of the things that I think that maybe we're on the same page and talking about the same thing, because when I am consulting with realtors, I'm talking to them about being empathetic with their customers, trying to get into their head. And, I think that sort of gets into the emotion aspect of really trying to understand. Am I saying the same thing?
Oh, absolutely. I believe it's every part of what I was mentioning in each of those 4 steps means to actually try to figure out what your customer is thinking, how they want to be served, all those kinds of things. As a great example, when you look at it from a customer perspective, we've heard of the saying before, try to get inside your buyer's shoes. Right. That's exactly what I'm driving at, but sometimes we say, I want to think from my buyer's perspective, but because we're in for lack of a better term, Chris, a what's in it for me society today with all of the technology we have, everything's about sharing your story and not learning the other person. I find it's easy to say, I want to live by the golden rule or get inside my customer's shoes. But sometimes I think then what we do, even when we say that, is then we think, how would I want to be served? But and I go to the color types, if I'm a red, in my color type stream, which means direct to the point, tell you I got 5 minutes, I'm a director, I'm not used to you talking over me. And the other person I'm talking to is the yellow, which is social, loves to share stories, wants to talk all day. If I say I'm going to try to get inside their shoes, but I'm still inside the red shoes, trying to sell to them, just thinking how would I want to be served as a red, that does us no good.
I love it. That's great. It's all about building rapport, in other words, and trying to figure out what they are. What is that color chart that you're talking about? I've heard that before.
Well, and I will say there's various different colors, streams, depending on who's teaching it. There's various different personality types. Some people talk names versus colors. Mine is built on the premise that there are 4 color types, that there are 4 dominant personality types that we each have. But the difference is that I've actually backed up mine. I should say backed up, but mine, where it's probably different, is that I've done now 2,500 interviews with high achievers.
Wow.
And so I'm taking the understanding and learning from those, plus my 10-year corporate sales career with 10,000 cold calls, literally,
wow.
and then adding it to what I've learned going through color type programs myself and making it my own.
Right.
So why I say that is because it's my own program, but it is still built on the same foundation that, say, Myers-Briggs is built on, or color type, or personality mapping is built on.
Got it.
And so my 4 color types would be red, yellow, blue, and green.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of told you the red and yellow, and the green would be somebody that, if you look at a job role, it might make it easier. You might see somebody in accounting, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
They guard the money, they need testimonials, they need to feel good about the situation. They won't want to hear this, but oftentimes they love to please people.
Mm-hmm.
They want to make sure they're on everybody's good side.
Uh-huh.
And I say that one because it gives a distinction from the blue, because the blue is very similar in the sense that they're usually maybe an IT manager who's guarding the network.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference is, rather than needing to give proof like the green, they have reluctance. They need you to prove it to them. So they might have resistance. They're not a people pleaser. They might be the person that says, look, we're using Citrix. You better prove that this isn't going to bring our network down when you install what you're trying to install.
Right, right.
So the blues and greens, the difference is probably the blue is more authoritative and direct, and they say it's my way or the highway,
mm-hmm.
whereas the green is more wanting to get along with everybody, but still needs proof because they're going back to the red and say, here, look, I have my proof.
Right, right. I love it.
So that would be my color.
I love it. No, that is very cool. And again, it's all about building rapport. I think that I'm a yellow, Corey. What does that say about
it's not a bad thing. You know what? People ask me all the time, because, of course, you go through these trainings and they want to know what color type are you.
Uh-huh.
So they'll ask me that. And my answer would be, and it's possible, Chris, to have 75% of one, and I mean, I'm throwing a percentage of it, but it wouldn't be that percent, but a majority of one and less of one other, and none of the other two, it's possible to have a bit of all 4. Mine, I would say, it's pretty straightforward for me, is I'm a red and a yellow. So when it comes to business, I'm a red.
Uh-huh.
When it comes to social, I'm a yellow.
Got it. That's interesting.
That's me too.
That is really cool.
Me to a T.
That is very cool. Well, listen, we are definitely going to direct people. So everybody that's watching this thing, make sure you get yourself to Poirier.com. They'll have all kinds of information about that, because I find this whole subject really fascinating. But Corey, I want to switch gears here. And one of the things that we talk about on the show, and I think that's something that's, you'll probably get this really quick, and that is, as entrepreneurs, as realtors, startup entrepreneurs, we all experience all kinds of failure, and we all have certain challenges. And I thought that I would just ask you, do you have like one particular challenge or failure that you really had to overcome, and how did you overcome it?
Well, it's interesting you asked that, Chris, and I'm not sure how far we'll go into talking about my background in the comedy and all that stuff, but I will tell you that why it's interesting that you bring that up is because when people hear the different things I do, and I was talking to somebody yesterday about this, the big thing is, you seem like you're just a naturally talented guy. And so this will go into where the failure came in, but I want to, I guess, correct that to a large degree, that I don't believe firmly that I was born with a lot of natural talent, if you will. I compared when I was talking about it to the person yesterday to Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky, sure, he was born with some hockey talent, no question. Sidney Crosby, born with hockey talent. Right. But I know for a fact, because one of the people we've had on our radio show is the skating coach for Sidney Crosby. I know that these two guys, Wayne and Sidney, both were up at 5 and 6 o'clock every day practicing. Sidney was the first guy to open the door, last guy to lock the door. So the point is that, yeah, they were born with a natural talent, but it didn't just automatically evolve naturally without them having to do any work.
Right.
So when people ask me about all these different things that I've done, they didn't see the first stand-up comedy show.
Right.
They're seeing 700 shows later and going, wow, do you do everything? Stand-up comedy, music? I couldn't tune the guitar. I used to break strings like crazy. I had a girlfriend that said, please stop singing, you're hurting my ears. And now I have CDs out and I've had songs on the radio. So my point is, it's not that I'm talented, it's just that I wouldn't give up. I kept trying over and over again, and I practiced that whole 10,000 times to try to get at least halfway decently good at it, at something, so that the newest person that sees you thinks that you were always good at it. So I wanted to preface that because that has a lot to do with failure and making mistakes. So I would say I had a lot of failures, a ton of failures in my life, and I'm proud of them, and I know that they're responsible for any success I've had. But the one that always speaks out to me is stand-up comedy, which is why I said it kind of leads to that stand-up world, is my very first gig ever. I got to the show. I didn't know we were going to be performing. We went through a 2-week workshop in stand-up, and the long story short is that I had 5 minutes to prepare my material. I watched the guys all around the stage debating who was going up first. Finally decided, you know what, the show's never going to start if somebody doesn't take the mic. So I went up and took the mic, and I told a couple of jokes to dead silence. So hence the failure. And the streams of sweat rolled down my face, and I realized the stand-up comedy thing a whole lot tougher than I thought. So ultimately what happened was the person who put on the show called me over to the corner of the stage and hit me in the back of the head, and he said, "You idiot, you got to wait until I turn the mic on." And so what I didn't know is that the very first joke I ever told in my life in a stand-up capacity, I didn't even have the mic on. So that's a pretty much colossal failure.
That's a great story.
I didn't know how to adjust the mic stand, even though that was one of only 2 things we learned in the workshop. I was tightening the car because I was so nervous. So I basically, for lack of a better term, I failed. I mean, in my opinion, I either made a mistake or failed at that show. And so you asked what I learned from it. And what I learned from it is that if I'm not willing to step outside my comfort zone as a person, I'm never going to discover who I fully could be or who I am. Now, I can direct my passion today, living my passion every minute of every day, living every day like it's my last, even though I'm planning for tomorrow. I can root that all the way back to that first stand-up show because I had to discover my passion before I started stand-up. I started stand-up, discovered it was a bit of my passion, but the true passion was speaking, which evolved from the stand-up world. So the irony is that where I discovered what I discovered from that situation and where I discovered it was when I bombed on that stage, but I kept going at it. I learned that, oh my God, my passion area is right outside my comfort zone. So if this is a circle, my passion area was right up here. And if I never would have stepped inside my comfort zone and stepped inside that circle, I never would have discovered speaking, which is how I live every day, today, living every day with love.
Wow, that's great.
So yeah, I can directly relate that all the way back to that mistake I made and that failure ahead. But the fact that I kept going showed me that once you step inside your comfort zone, that's where you see where your real initiative lies and the real Corey or Chris begins.
I love it. I love it. Corey, that there are so many really cool, using that example, there are so many cool and different topics and aspects of it that, the perseverance, and going out there and failing and getting out, because, what do they say? If you really want to be a super success, just go out and fail a lot. And, I think in getting into your passion and getting out of your comfort zone, there's just so many cool things. That is awesome. Well, let's switch gears again and talk a little bit about your vision. What's the next big thing for Corey?
Well, it's funny, Chris. I even had a hard time talking about this recently because I was, it's one of these things where in business, you want to kind of have, as they say, your ducks in a row before you start talking about something.
Right.
And so I shared this on one of the programs, so it's kind of still almost exclusive news, that we're sharing in terms of a new, whether it's initiative, whether it's a new side of the business, I would call it almost a brand extension that we're launching. Is we have the radio show now for close to a year, Conversations with Passion. And it's been an awesome show. We've had everybody on it from Jack Canfield to T. Harv Eker to Shalene Johnson, the Purple Jim. John Dumas. We've had John from Entrepreneur on Fire on the show. And so it's been an exciting endeavor. But what's happened is we've built up so much content that we can never use. Well, not never, but we can never keep up on because we're doing a show every 2 weeks. So we're only airing an hour every 2 weeks. But our interviews are sometimes longer than an hour on their own.
Oh, I see.
So we sat there with all this content in the hopper and said, this is amazing, life-changing content. There's also stuff that I'd love to share, like, a clip from a 10-minute talk that I've done or when I've had brought in another speaker and we've recorded their talk and I have it in the hopper sitting there. There's all this content I'd love to share, but there's no time in the radio show to share it all.
Right.
So what we decided to do, and this is very much in its infancy, is launch CD of the Month Club, which essentially anybody who gets into the CD of the Month Club gets 3 hours, so 2 hours of the radio show that already exists, because they might not have listened to it or can't listen in that format. So they're going to get 2 hours of the radio show, and then they're also going to get 1 hour of exclusive content that we've never released before and don't intend to in any other fashion. So we have a CD of the Month Club coming out and an MP3 of the Month Club coming out for those who don't want to go back into the world of CDs or who have left the world of CDs. But a lot of people, I find, still want a mobile library in their car.
Right.
And I listen to CDs in my car all the time. I listen to podcasts, MP3s, and CDs. So I mix it all up. And so we decided, let's go this route. But then also, we're going to launch a website where there'll be a back end. So with that membership, you also get exclusive videos and a whole bunch of other member benefits. So that's not just the CD of the Month Club. So that's a whole brand new thing that's literally just being launched now. And I would say if your viewers/listeners want to learn more about it, or at least they want to find out how to sign up, they can go to either of the websites, our websites. But I would say if they wanted to literally sign up now, which, I'll leave that up to them, but it's conversationswithpassion.com, which is the radio show's website.
Okay.
And if you go under products, it's actually the top two. One's the CD and one's the MP3.
Mm-hmm.
Conversations. That's how much of its infancy it is. We haven't even launched the full website for it yet. We're signing people up, and we haven't even launched the official website.
So it sounds like people can. Sounds awesome, Corey. I mean, I want to sign up for this. This is available right now. Then it sounds like.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
All right, great. We'll definitely make sure we get everybody to that site. That sounds awesome. Very cool. Well, listen, I love talking. One of the questions I always love is sort of a little bit of a wrap up, Corey, is to ask people. The $1 million question is: you have a brand new realtor, a brand new entrepreneur that wants to start a business. Maybe it's online, maybe it's a realtor business, whatever it is. That person is sitting right in front of your desk, and they're saying, "Corey, what is like the one or two key things that I need to understand now to really just launch my business?" What would you tell them?
Well, one, I would tell them from day one to focus on building a unique brand as a realtor. Mm-hmm. And so what I mean by that is, there's, as you know, Chris, there's little elements to building your brand, i.e. what you look like, what you wear, how you act with customers, how you respond to customers. There's those elements. So that's one part of your brand. Mm-hmm. And then the other part of your brand is how do you stand out as a realtor? Mm-hmm. I'll give you an example where I'm in Alberta today, and I can talk about a real estate company / realtors that I don't even know myself. So I can talk about their brand, and it's already spoken to me, and I haven't met them. But anyway, there's a brand here, and I don't know if I'll give them a plug or not, because a good buddy of mine, one of their competitors, is a realtor. But anyway, they have smart cards, and on the side of the smart cards, they have the name of their real estate firm. But every one of their pictures, whether it's on the busboard or billboard benches, whether it's in the paper, whether it's on the side of that smart card, they have mustaches on their face, like somebody would normally paint on your face. Uh-huh. So the girl, that guy. And so they kind of built, and at first when I saw it, I thought, oh my God, somebody did something to their billboard. And then when I saw it in the paper, I realized they did it to themselves. But the point of that is that I know this realtor brand. I haven't met them. I haven't bought a house from them. Mm-hmm. But they stand out to me more than anybody else in the city. Right. And yet, the branding, the money they put into it is kind of minimal. And they have to drive a car anyway. Right. The paper, it's a local region or local specialty paper. I'm sure it's not costing them much once a week. Mm-hmm. Other than the billboard sign and the bench, which I don't know what it's costing them, there's not a lot that they're doing to make that brand really unique and really stand out. Mm-hmm. So, but there's an inherent brand behind that, which is the fun side of putting the mustache on your face. Right. And again, make it about the other people thing. You would have put it on me anyway, so why don't I put it on myself and let's have a laugh at me. Right. So, what I'm getting at is to actually sit down before you even, if you said brand new realtor. So if you're launching today, sit down and say, what is my brand? And what are all the other realtors doing? And how can I go a bit different? How can I actually make my brand a bit different from those other realtors? And then I would go one step further and say, and make sure it's something that you're passionate about. So if you're going to make a unique brand, these people here that I'm talking about that put the mustaches on their face, if you're somebody who's, let's say, if you're like a grumbly, I hate the world, you're probably not going to fit well in an environment where you're driving a smart car, wearing that mustache on your face. Mm-hmm. Right. So make sure it's also a brand. Whatever your distinctive brand is, make sure it's something you're passionate about. And it could even just be meaning that you go after a niche market. Mm. It could be that you want to be a commercial realtor completely. And you found a way to stand out as a commercial realtor. Maybe that means you're always wearing a suit rather than being laid back. Whatever that, and maybe that's you inside, but you're passionate about commercial real estate. So what I would really say is figure out what your niche / unique brand is, but also make sure that it aligns with who you are as a person.
That's cool. I love it. Excellent advice. One of the things we talk a lot about is, your USP or your unique selling proposition, and how do you make yourself different? And absolutely, by brand, and then using your passion as well, too. Great advice, Mr. Corey. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. It's an absolute pleasure, Chris.
Absolutely. So we're going to make sure that, Corey, that we get everybody over to your website, which is going to be CoreyPoirier.com. And then in addition, there's going to be a separate website. We'll make sure in the show notes we also get them to your radio show and also to this new thing that you're launching with the CDs, the Conversations with Passion. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And Chris, I will tell you, just on that CD side, it says in its kind of early stages, but the first CD is pretty much ready to roll. I'm waiting for the design to be approved this week or by the weekend. So when I say it's early stages, as soon as the first one comes out, we're forced that it's got to be every month.
I
So
love
if somebody jumps into the cycle now, they're literally probably going to get a CD in weeks, like within a week or two, or most 3 weeks, give or take mailing time. And why we set the website up to take those orders on the main page is because once I started telling people about it, people would say, how can I sign up now? And as a business person, you don't want to say to a person, no, you can't. You got to wait a month.
Right. I love it. That's great. Well, I'm signing up as soon as I'm done with this interview, so I'm looking forward to it.
So if you have any questions on that, let me know. So, awesome.
I will absolutely. Corey, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. It was absolutely a pleasure, an honor to interview you, and I'm looking forward to hearing more from you, and we'll definitely keep in touch.
Awesome. Likewise, Chris. I really appreciate it.
All right, my friend. Take care.
You too. Perfect.
Hey, was Corey the bomb or what, man? I really enjoyed talking to Corey. Amazing advice. I loved his, the 4-step system for dealing with your clients. Absolutely, especially combined with the whole emotional aspect and getting into your clients' heads, I think is brilliant. And the whole thing about, developing your brand and your uniqueness, which is so important for realtors and for all entrepreneurs for that matter. Excellent advice, Corey. Thank you so much. We're going to make sure that everybody definitely check out his new CD series, check out his radio show, and definitely get to his website, which is in the show notes at CoreyPoirier.com. All right. Again, thank you guys so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Make sure you show me some love down below. All right. Let us know what you think about the show and let us know what you think about Corey. We're definitely going to keep track of him. And again, my name is Chris Stafford. Thanks so much for joining us, and may massive abundance be yours.